So, for all the talk about EVs in Quebec and subsidies and how well that's been going and helping people get into EVs, it was quite the eye-opener the other day, this just happened a day or so ago, to discover that the fund set up to subsidize these payments, the Roulet Vert, right, apparently has gone over budget. In other words, it says they were too successful in getting people to buy EVs, and the money set aside in the original budget has all been used. Sorry, can't help you. So if you want to buy a used car, or rather an EV now, you don't. Now, what was going to happen, the numbers have been going down, of course. It was set to be reduced from 7,000 now to 4,000 in January, and then gradually be eventually phased out. But now what I'm understanding is it's going to be phased out in February. You're going to have to wait at least 2 months, and then they hope to bring it back in May. So anybody, even if you ordered an EV and you have to wait, a couple of months for delivery, you lose the money you would have saved in that, and then dealers have to keep cars on lots for 2 more months so people can then check back in May and say, okay, I'm ready to take it now when there's a subsidy. I don't understand how this works. First of all, I don't understand how you run out of money for something like this. You set up a program, you want it to work, you're promoting the use of EVs, and you ran out of money? Let's find out more. Virginie Dufour is a Liberal MNA from the riding of Mille-Iles. She's also the official opposition critic on the environment and the fight against climate change. Virginie, thank you for being here. Look, I'm trying to understand this in my head, how you set up a program that's supposed to save money and run out of money. So what's your sort of position on this?
Well, it was predictable that the sales would increase with, people seeing the subsidy will be decreased in January. Everybody, ran to get an EV. Those that were able to buy one, they did, faster than they would have. So it was predictable. And I'm surprised the government didn't predict it themselves. But there are issues that, now it's becoming unpredictable for the industry what's going to happen after February. And that's the main issue here. And people, like you said, that order a car but have not, received it yet, well, unfortunately, they don't know if they will have the subsidy or not. Because, it's the moment that you get the car that counts, and not the moment you ordered it. And so it could make a big difference and a big gap in a lot of people's budget, actually.
So now that this story is sort of out and it's public, and I heard the gentleman, I think Benoit Charest might have spoken about this as well. What happens next now for people who are caught in the middle here?
Well, that's a good question. They may have to wait to get the subsidy, but we already know it's going to be less than it was if you bought it in December. But we think, I think actually that the government could have changed the criteria to be eligible so that they could have extended longer. For example, right now, if you buy a car and you bought another car 2 years ago, you were eligible still. They could have limited it to only one per person, for example, in a lifetime. That could have been a criteria, and that's what the industry asked the government to do, and they didn't accept that. So instead, they decided just to cut the program and reduce the subsidies for actually in 2026 there won't be any subsidy anymore.
Okay, again, I'm thoroughly confused here. It means if you had bought a car with a subsidy when it was first introduced, you could as an individual be selling that car that you paid that much less for much more money now, just because that subsidy no longer exists. Exactly,
and that's one of the issue with this subsidy. Like I said, we could have, the government could have changed the criteria and make sure that more people have access to it. Right now, an electric car is pretty expensive. I bought one actually last year. It's more than $60,000. Not a lot of people right now, with the what's going on with our economy. Not a lot of people are able to buy. That it's so expensive. $60,000 is quite a lot of money. So people need help to do the transition. And the problem is that in a few years, they won't be able to buy anything else. We've heard a lot of the numbers, like the year 2035. You've probably heard that by 2035 it won't be allowed to sell any car with gas after that. But what people are not aware is that actually the main issue for me is 2030. By 2030, it's 85% of cars sold that will have to be electric. 85%. So still, it's like in 5 years, right? It's tomorrow. We're 5 years away when the market will mostly offer only electric cars. So what will people be able to buy at that moment if cars are that expensive? So they need help to do this transition.
So is there a suggestion here? I know you're the opposition critic on this. What's the suggestion, that the government find money from somewhere else and put it back into the program, or what?
Well, first I've asked actually the minister to change this. We're not in disagreement with the ban in 2035, but we don't think the market and the consumers are ready for the 2030 objective, and we think the mountain to climb is too steep, and so we think it should be a little bit less steep to get to 2035 at the end. So, and of course, yes, we need help. The Quebecers will need help to do this transition, and maybe this subsidy will have to be adapted so that the people that need it the most get it. But we do think that it should be it should still be there for those that need it the most.
Will it? Is there some way? I mean, look, we're dealing with a giant deficit as well. It's not as if we can pull money from anywhere, but is there a chance that there might be money made available here?
Well, the program is paid by himself. Like right now, it's used by the electrical fund, right? So it's not like coming from the general budget. It's with actually the carbon tax that it's paid, not the federal one, but the Quebec one. Mm-hmm. So it's been in the past. That's how it was funded, and it should still be working in the future. It's just that the government has decided to put the money somewhere else. They use the money to help companies, for example, to decarbonize, for example, but people to make this transition.
Okay. Listen, I don't want to run out of time, but I want to talk about the one other thing that you're also responsible for. We have the new flood zone maps that the provincial government is putting out now, and we know the terrible situation that's happened here in the past. Some people very upset with these new maps because they don't take into account some very obvious things here. So what's the situation as far as that's concerned?
That's very, very concerning, actually, for those living close to either a dike or being close to a flood zone. It's just that the new rules will extend the flood zones much further than they were before, and people living behind a dike, for example, Sainte-Marthe-sur-le-Lac on the North Shore, they have a big dike that was built by the government a few years ago, $55 million spent by the government, and now they say that it doesn't exist. With the new rule, everybody behind the dike would be considered in a high risk flood zone, which means that if you live there and your house is destroyed by fire, not flooding, but a fire, you wouldn't be allowed to rebuild. That's an example, but you wouldn't be allowed either to make renovations or, protect yourself even from flooding. That's really concerning. Our Quebec was built along rivers and in lakes. So there are so many people affected by this, and they don't know yet. That's the worst part of it. In the Montreal area, there was a map that was created and trying to show what the impact will be. But the rest of Quebec, the province, they have no idea. And when the rules will be in function, I don't know how to say that, when they will apply, well, it will be too late to say, that sorry, there's
Okay.
there's a mistake in the map, for example. Unfortunately, the government has decided that the rules would be like the consultation would be done without the map. So, it's really hard for people to understand what's going on with that.
Okay. Well, let's hope that gets addressed. Listen, we're out of time. I thank you so much. Very much appreciate you being on with us today.
Thank you very much.
Yeah,
I'm sorry.
Virginie Dufour. That's okay.
Yeah, we should talk about this another time.
We will come back to it because it's a big story and we don't want it to be a story that's going to get worse than it has been in the past. So we will indeed. Virginie Dufour, the Liberal MNA, on the opposition critic as well, not just for, as I said earlier on about these EVs, for the environment, but also for climate change.